I would describe myself as a visionary builder, somebody who has a nurturer's heart, and I'm someone who is warm, but I'm not careless. I'm somebody who is very kind-hearted, but I'm discerning as well. And I would describe myself as someone who has had to take up the mantle of leadership at a time where I had to lead with pain. Yeah, so I'm somebody who has led through pain, but I've not allowed that pain to define me. I'm a mother of 4, and I pride myself on the fact that I'm somebody who is, when it comes to doing the things that I need to do, I'm very principled and I'm big on integrity. I met Ubong in a church in Akwa Ibom. Then that church was called Power Chapel International.
Okay.
It's now Power City. Then I was serving as chief protocol to the pastor's wife, and he was chief protocol to the pastor
himself.
So that's how we met. But honestly, there was nothing going on in my mind. Then, the friendship developed along the way. And then so I will not call it his legacy. It's our legacy. Okay. I said that because I've been involved with it from the start. There are people that are like in the background pushing things. There are people that are in the front pushing. And my husband and I were a team in every sense of the word. So I didn't see the need to try and do things to outshine him or he outshine me. We're just functioning in our, yes, we're functioning. When you go to a battlefield, everybody doesn't go to the battlefront. So Ubong King, yes, he had shared that vision of thinkation, but I bought it and I've been a part of it from day one.
Welcome to another very interesting episode of The Scoop right here on Konga TV and Konga 103.7 FM. This is where we bring you inspiring stories, very inspiring stories as we go behind the scenes to bring you the journeys of great business leaders, innovators, creatives, and a lot of people making great impact in our world today. I am Ifeoma Ajumobi, Ife Melody, your sparkling woman on air. On The Scoop today, I have a very special guest who most people know because of her late husband. But beyond her late husband, she too is a force to reckon with. Yes, but she's been working behind the scenes, doing a lot behind the scenes. But today, we will be telling you all about it. Allow me to introduce to you Ambassador Unyime-Ivy King. Yes, the current CEO of Protection Plus, and also a UN ambassador, eminent ambassador of peace, a mother, a coach. Wow. If I say everything, I cannot take this one away. And she warned me. She is an author. Most of you may not know that, but yes, get to know that today on the show. And a screenwriter. And having a pre-interview before this particular show, she said she would soon be coming up with a movie. But that's the tip of the iceberg. We are here to tell it all. Good morning, good day, Ambassador Unyime. Welcome to The Scoop. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
You look beautiful.
Thank you. You too.
Great to be here with you in your home.
I'm happy to have you.
Been?
Oh, I've been good. Just taking my time this holiday to rest as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. All right. And as you can see, I'm very excited to do this with you today.
So am I. Thank you.
Right. So let's start from the very beginning. And this is where you talk to us, from your heart. Okay. Say it the way you usually do. Who is Ambassador Unyime King? Who is Unyime-Ivy King? Who is she? Okay.
Thank you very much, Ife. And thank you once again for having me on the show. I would describe myself as a visionary builder, somebody who has a nurturer's heart, and I'm someone who is warm, but I'm not careless. I'm somebody who is very kind-hearted, but I'm discerning as well. And I would describe myself as someone who has had to take up the mantle of leadership at a time where I had to lead with pain. Yeah, so I'm somebody who has led through pain, but I've not allowed that pain to define me. I'm a mother of 4, and I pride myself on the fact that I'm somebody who is, when it comes to doing the things that I need to do. I'm very principled and I'm big on integrity. So
Wow.
that's me in a nutshell.
Amazing. I love that part. Natural. You understand that you can nurture.
Yeah.
You've heard from her, a nurturer. And yes, if you've not figured it out very well, let me just let you know. We're talking about Ambassador Unyime-Ivy King, the wife of the late Ubong King, who you know is a very, very great name, big name when you talk about impact and affecting our world. Right now, she's also currently championing Thinkation, her husband's legacy project. We will be bringing all of the stories and what to expect to you right here on the show. So you just told us about you, right?
Yeah.
How was growing up for you? How was childhood for you? Tell us all about it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I grew up in Calabar. Then it was Cross River State. But much later, the state was split into two, and the Akwa Ibom part was where we now found ourselves. You know, I would say that I had a very, very beautiful childhood. In fact, I think my childhood is one that children these days should envy. Why? Because we had a lot, those days, you know, we didn't have much of the phones and gadgets that you have now. So we did a lot of playing outdoors, and we also did a lot of reading. I come from a family where we read a lot. My father would take us to the library in Calabar. Then we had public libraries and just dump us there to read. And my father, my mom, they just kept buying us books. So on a typical day, if you came to my home, you will see somebody's reading either a newspaper or reading the classics. My dad introduced us to the classics very early in life. He read things like Greek folktales and things like that were beyond our capacity as children, and I think it helped to develop our mind in a lot of ways. So I had a beautiful childhood in Calabar. It gave me the foundation, it gave me the values that I have growing up. So I look back at my childhood with a lot of nostalgia, you know, with a lot of, you know, fun memories.
What were your parents like?
Okay, my parents were they were this kind of parents that they allowed you to express yourself. We used to have a lot of conversations at home, and my father was somebody who was very cerebral. He would allow you to argue with him about things. It wasn't this kind of, you know, the parents that the children were only to be seen, not heard. But that was not the kind of home I grew up with. We could express ourselves, and if you had a superior argument, my father would defer to you. So that has helped me growing up, because I'm not scared of expressing my mind to whoever.
What position were you?
I respect people,
okay,
but it will not stop me from expressing my mind, because I learned that growing up.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what
that's the kind of child.
are you, and how many are you?
Sorry?
Like, what's a full house?
Okay, we're 4 children. Okay, 5. We lost our sister in 1992, our 5th born. So we grew up 4 of us, and I'm the first of 4 children.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
All right. And yes, I mean, Akwa Ibom, Calabar, Cross River, all those places, they've got beautiful sceneries, natural environments.
Yeah.
Did you explore them?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did. I'll tell you, my father and my mom, they had this, you know how you are in an environment, but you're not defined by that environment. I remember we used to go out to visit places of interest as a family. My dad used to take us to watch plays. In fact, there's a play that we watch in the theater in Calabar, and it ignited my interest. Oh. I remember at that time I wrote a play, you know, because I wrote so much as a child that if a lot of those things were published, I would have been a child author many times over. Okay. You know, so we went to plays, we went to the zoo, then there were functional zoos, there were functional libraries, we went to the Quor Falls. So we did a lot as a family. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Which secondary school and of course university did you attend, and how was secondary school life as well?
Okay. I went to Union Secondary School, and in Akwa Ibom then, in short, in the whole of that south side, there were certain schools that were like top schools then. You know, unfortunately, the standard of a lot of those schools have dropped over time, you know, the general Nigerian thing. But then at that time, anybody that graduated from a school like the one I went to, like, people will be waiting to, you know, snatch them up either for a job or either for marriage, like our school matron used to tell us. So Union Secondary School was an all-girls school. And I had a stint at leadership there because I was one of the prefects at some point. And then from there, I went to the Federal University of Uyo in Akwa Ibom State, where I read English. And after that, I upped the game for myself professionally. I went to the School of Media and Communication of the Pan-Atlantic University here in Lagos, where I did courses in advanced writing and media enterprises.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. When did you discover you loved writing and that you could really write?
I think for the longest time, because growing up as a child, like I said, my father worked with the State House of Assembly, you know, and he was an editor. He did a lot of writing there, taking the minutes and all of that. And in his later life, after he retired, he went into writing. And I've discovered that it's something that he passed on. So as far back as nursery school, I was doing a lot of writing. I remember in primary 5, my French teacher then, I went to Charles Walker International Nursery School, and my French teacher then wanted to adapt one of my plays. Because I used to carry the books to school. Some people will even take the books home, the jotters that I was writing. So he wanted to adapt one of those plays into a class drama, you know, and of course he did something to my psyche. And growing up, I've always led. I think being firstborn, it comes naturally because you have to lead your younger ones. And I remember putting together a literary and dramatic club in the estate where we lived. I would bring children together. My mom would type the program for the events and bring it home, and we'll take it to the different houses in the estate and invite parents to come and watch our drama presentations. Of course, they were not scripted, you know, but we had a lot of fun. And I had jotters upon jotters of things that I'd written. And my sister was my first fan. She read everything that I wrote. Wow. But sadly, when the state was created and we moved to Akwa Ibom, a lot of those jotters got missing in transit. And it's one of the regrets that I have today.
What were you writing about?
I was writing fiction.
Okay.
So I wrote
novels.
Novels.
Okay.
Yes, I had tons and tons of jotters that I was writing. And one book that made an impression on me that time was Mabel Shegun's My Father's Daughter. Because I remember having a conversation with my father about it, and he was saying that he would see if he could meet Mabel so that maybe one of my stories could get published and all of that. But you know, in those days, the knowledge was not like it is now. Yes. I'm sure if it was now, a lot of things would have happened. But I'm thankful for that background that I had. Yeah.
Very interesting background, and you really do like writing. Yeah. You are an author. You've grown to be an author and published a book. Yeah, this book is Burning Heart, and that was in 2013, you said. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. What inspired this, and how did you go about producing this?
Okay. Like I said, I've always written. And Burning Heart was born from a true story. When I was doing my youth service in Osun State, some friends of mine and I were having a conversation about life, and the friend told me this story basically. Okay. And then I linked it to a conversation. Remember, I told you that in our home growing up, we had lots of conversations with my parents. And I remember we were having a conversation about people who go about jilting women, mistreating women and jilting. And we had that conversation with my father. And he said something that really struck. He said that a lot of young men are suffering today, not because of something any other person did, but because they had probably promised marriage to someone, then disappointed that person, went to the next person, and the repercussions they were reaping from it. So when he said that thing, it struck. So I connected the two, what my father said and the conversation I had with my friends, and I decided to do a story to show that whatever you sow, you reap it. There are repercussions for the things that we do. So that's basically the story of Burning Heart.
And you also do screenwriting.
Yeah, I went to Royal Arts Academy, Memi Song's school. Okay. Yeah. You know why I went there? The reason was very funny. I actually wanted to connect with some people in Nollywood. Okay. I actually wanted to get into that circle. Okay. You know, so I decided to do a program. I think they have this Royal Arts Academy school. So a friend of mine and I decided to go do a course there. Yeah, so that was how that one came about.
And you're about to bring out a movie, you said.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We should watch out for it.
It should have been out before now, but other things derailed me. Yeah.
All right. Tell us about your time with Vanguard, the Bates, and even TWS.
Okay. My stint with Vanguard is very interesting because I just finished youth service and I was looking for a job. I applied in several media houses, and of course I got responses to most of them. But a friend told me, there's this lady, she works with Vanguard newspaper, but she has a TV program. She wants somebody, on the program. That's how I got to meet her. My first boss after youth service, Remi Diagbare.
Okay.
So when I got to her, I took clips of my write-up because when I was doing my youth service in Oshogbo, the whole of that year, schools were on strike. I was posted to a secondary school in Oshogbo to teach. And I don't think I entered the classroom up to 2 times. They were on strike. So somebody came to me and said, there's this man, he runs a newspaper, he's looking for a reporter. So that's how I ran there and said I was interested in reporting. So that's how I got a stint with that paper. I was doing interviews with people, and the feedback that I got excited me. Oh. So when I got to Remi and she saw clips of the things that I'd written, she said, why didn't you tell me you could write? And immediately she said, no, I'm taking you to Vanguard. It's not even the newspaper. So that's how the Vanguard job came about. And I was reporting on her desk. She was on the beauty desk. So I would go out, do interviews. That was my first, apart from the youth service, this one was on a larger, this was Lagos, So I did interviews with people. And when I started seeing my byline coming out in Vanguard, it did something to me. I remember an interview I did with someone. She runs a very popular wedding magazine in Nigeria. And when the reports came out, she personally called me back. I was like, I just fresh out of youth service. And she said, of all the reports that I've read, yours stood out, that she really loved. And she gave me a gift way back then. So that was how my stint with Vanguard.
That you're good in this thing. Wow. Yeah. Wow. We'll love that part to come up again. And you talk about it with passion.
Yeah, no, it's something I love to do.
Okay.
Something I love doing.
That's amazing. Yeah. And storytellers, writers, I don't know how to put it, but very great people from behind the scenes, because we preserve a lot.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, you wouldn't have known about so many things if people were not writing and documenting those stories. Even
in my family, I'm like the family, how would I describe myself? The one who preserved the family archives. If they want a picture from 20 years ago, I have it. So even my mom will be shocked. Where do you get these pictures from? So I think it's something that is just inborn, and it even extended into church. Because in my church, I volunteered in the E-team. The E-team department is that department that does all the writings you see on social media. And yes, I had a head of department, but I was head of a unit, the content unit. And so it helped me to also further do what I love, even in church. So I describe myself as a scribe.
Just before we go into your marriage, how you met your husband and all that, you've been recognized as different ambassadors, and of course one that also stands out very well, UN Eminent Ambassador for Peace. How did that come about? I was running an NGO. I will go back to it, because after my husband died, there were a lot of things I had to drop. Save Our Women and Girls Foundation. And we did quite a lot with young women. I did a training. The first training that we did at Save Our Women and Girls Foundation was in 2016 in Akwa Ibom. So we did a 2-week training. I brought in very prominent people, both to speak, because all our trainings were curated in a way that it speaks to the hands and it speaks to the mind. So we brought people in to speak to the women. We also brought people in to do trainings in different skills area, and we were doing quite a lot. So in the process of that, a friend of mine reached out to me one day and said, there's this organization, International Association for World Peace Advocates, and send in your CV, send in the things that you have done, that they're doing nominations for ambassadorship. So I was reluctant at first, because honestly, I'm somebody that I'm not interested in titles. In fact, to show you how much
there was a time I was using my name on Facebook as ambassador, Unyime-Ivy King and all of that, but I took out the ambassador because I keep telling myself all of the time that without these titles, who are you? So that's what I focus on, the person and not the titles. So I was reluctant and she kept pushing me. You've done quite a lot. There are people that have not even done half of the things that you have done. And in fact, I used to hear that too from my dad. He would say, you've done quite a lot, but people are not hearing about this. So you need to push yourself out there more. I think I prefer, I'm a background kind of person. I prefer to give the support. I don't want the spotlight on me, you know. So eventually I decided to fill the form, send in my CV, send in all the documentations about the things that I've done. And when I did that, I was selected for that nomination. So that's how it came about.
Yeah. Wow. Tell us a bit about that time working with women, working with families, you know, and what were your experiences like?
Okay. I still work with women, though not as structured as it was during my time when I was actively pushing Silver Women and Girls Foundation.
Yeah.
But I'm not rested. It is something that will come up later. I needed the business to survive first, you know. Yeah. So we've done a lot of training for young girls, and a lot of them now are still running their businesses. So when I see them, I'm so happy. There's one time I did a radio interview in Uyo. I think it was like 2 years ago or a year ago. I can't really remember the time span. And while on that interview, I didn't know they had made arrangements to interview the women that had gone through that training with me, a few of them that were still running their businesses. So halfway through that interview, they called in, and all of them started sharing their experiences, the things, the impact. Honestly, I cried on that interview. It was totally unexpected. So that has been my joy, that we've done something.
Kudos to that radio presenter.
We've done something and it's been sustainable. Yeah. Yes. Wow. So, yeah. And then apart from that, I have an open door policy, if I may call it that, on social media, because I usually tell myself that if my daughter or my son needs someone to talk to other than me, I'm sowing this as a seed. I want to make myself approachable and reachable to anybody who wants to talk, and trusting that God will use that seed for my child out there. If they need somebody to talk to and they don't want to talk to me, let God guide them to the right person.
Or you're not somehow in the scene at that moment, and they just need someone.
So I have a lot of people sending me DMs. They want to talk, and once a young person sends me a DM and wants to talk, I will drop everything and talk with them. Wow. So I still do that. Wow. Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I've been saving this. Yes. We'll come to that part now.
Okay.
How did you meet Ubong King? Even though it looks like a story of growing together, he's been there one way or the other, but let's hear it from you.
Okay. I met Ubong King in a church in Akwa Ibom. Then that church was called Power Chapel International.
Okay.
It's now Power City. And we're both volunteer workers in church. He was head of protocol. At some point, I was his assistant. But nothing was going on. If Ubong were here, it's something we've had this banter over and over. He would say I was eyeing him.
You were eyeing him.
And then I would say, you need to prove it. You know? So we're always having that. Then I was serving as chief protocol to the pastor's wife, and he was chief protocol to the pastor
himself.
So that's how we met. But honestly, there was nothing going on in my mind. Then, you know, the friendship developed along the way. And then something happened. One of those times we had to travel with the pastor to Benin. Then the late Archbishop was going to give our pastor an honorary doctorate. So of course we went along with him and everything. So one morning, I'll never forget this. The pastor's wife, they were rushing for an early morning prayer with Archbishop Idahosa. And the pastor's wife called us that, there are things that scattered in the room, and said we should arrange the things. I said, okay, we went in and we were arranging. And honestly, she left and forgot that we are arranging things in the room, and she locked the door. You know, so by the time we finished and we came, the door was locked. Do you know, I just turned, I noticed, because we stayed, Archbishop lodged us, he had some lodges where he puts his guests. So we're in one of those. And I looked at the windows, did not have any protector. I did not even think twice. I opened the window and I jumped. My husband said that it was at that moment when I jumped out of the window, he said to himself, this woman is not as quiet as I think she is. There's a streak of mischief. And he said it was that time. Of course, we had started a relationship, but I think there was nothing certain. He said it was at that point that he told himself, no, this is the person that I'm going to marry. That a whole Sister Ivy, holy Sister Ivy, jumped out from the window. I jumped out, I went to the reception, I got the key, and I came and unlocked it, and he came out. When my pastor's wife heard the gist, she was laughing so much about it.
Wow.
So that's how we met. We met serving. We've always served together as a couple, even before we got married.
Oh, interesting. Wow, I've never heard this part. Were you sporty? Did you do sports a lot? What made you?
Not really. No, I just needed to get out of the room.
Okay.
Yes. Because I was thinking, okay, they've gone for a prayer meeting.
Okay.
How long is it going to take them and all? So I didn't want to be locked up in the room until they return. So what was on my mind was escape.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he finally decided and he proposed, or
that was the Sound of Music moment when I jumped out of the window.
So how did the whole process now finally happen?
Okay. So he proposed to me, and then we're just starting out in life, basically. But he used to say something to me that by reasons of study, he has come to discover that when a man marries a woman, when a woman comes into his life, it gives him direction. It gives him a sense of purpose. And he really wanted to get married because he said that once he gets married to me, he feels that 90% of his success or 99% of his success is his wife that carries it. There's one mathematical equation he used to do to arrive at that conclusion, So that was how eventually he came and met my parents, and it wasn't like it was a smooth sell, because at that point, he didn't have anything to his name. So a lot of people didn't understand it. Even older women in church didn't understand it. They were asking questions, talking behind our back. How do they want to marry? She wants to marry this guy that doesn't even have anything to his name and all of that. But for me, like I said, I've always been a reader. And a lot of my values, apart from the values I picked up from family, a lot of my values I picked from the books that I was exposed to. I read a lot. In fact, I could call myself a bookworm then. I don't even read as much now, but I read a whole lot. So I would describe myself as a young woman who was very precocious, because I had a lot of values. I had a lot of, it helped me to redefine certain things for myself. And I kept telling myself that I'm not interested in marrying a rich person.
Okay.
I want to build with whoever I marry, and we'll build together. I kept saying that. And I say this with a caveat, because it doesn't mean that every other young person should toe my line. There are some people in church who you will say, oh, this person doesn't have money. Okay, let me marry him and he'll have money tomorrow, and you will suffer like anything. Why? Because it's not just enough for you not to have money.
It has to come from a personal conviction.
Yes, the person must have a sense of purpose. Even at that point where he doesn't have money, you look at the person and that this one has sense of purpose, is ready to put in the work to get to it. He's not lazy.
Okay.
There are people in the name of I don't have money, they just want women to sponge on, to latch onto. So that's where I always draw the caveat that, okay, I got married to somebody who didn't have anything. It doesn't mean that if a rich person comes for you is a sin or is wrong. You don't have to follow my own path, but that is what I wanted. I used to even tell myself that I don't want a pin in my house that I can't tell you the story of. I want to be able to tell you the story of every single thing that we have acquired over the years.
All right. Still talking about your late husband, Ubong King.
Okay.
He was quite adventurous and he loved exploring.
Yeah.
Did you explore with him?
It's very funny. I'm the more adventurous one.
Oh, really?
It's something that a lot of people will be shocked to know. Yes. If, for instance, we go for a holiday, he just wants to sleep and not go anywhere. And for me, what's that? What kind of holiday is that? That you just sleep at home? I'm the one that I'm always exploring with the children, discovering new things, going on adventures and all of that. He just wants to sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's funny, if you ask the children, between mommy and daddy, who is the more talkative one, all of them, they will point at me. And I'll tell them, people are not serious. Your father is the one that is all over the place and you're pointing at me, Yeah.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. So talking about your children, tell us a bit about them.
Okay. I have 4 children, 3 girls and a boy. And they have their different expressions of each of us. They have our boldness, they have our creativity, they have our compassion. In fact, I remember when Ubong was here, he would tell me that one day, I hope these children will not sell us out. And it's exactly the thing I used to say to him, that the way you're sowing seeds, I'm okay if you want to sow seeds to anybody. I don't have an issue with that.
Children.
As long as you don't come home one day and tell me that God is telling you to sow me and the children out to somebody. I said that one will argue about it. So our children, they've taken it to the next level, because of course the glory of the latter is always greater than that of the former. So the children have their own different expressions of their father, and they are fine.
Wow. Wow. Having experienced all this with you in just this short moment, what was it like at the point when he had to leave and go to the world beyond the other part?
Okay.
You are still on the scoop. Stay with us. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll talk about Ubong King lives on. Of course, he's passed away, but he is still, of course, living through his wife and children and many other people that he left his great impact on. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You are watching The Scoop on Konga TV. Welcome back. You are still watching The Scoop right here on Konga TV. And of course, we have the radio version on Konga 103.7 FM. I am still your host, Ifoma Ajumobi, Ify Melody, your sparkling woman on air. And we are having a very wonderful time with Unyime-Ivy King. And yes, she is the CEO of Protection Plus Limited, Protection Plus Services Limited. And she's been telling us amazing stories, her journey as a young woman, and even her amazing, escapades, adventures, and even as an author, coming out with so much more. But at this point, we want to find out how it has been for her. She was married to Ubong King, the great Ubong King, founder of Mitigation, and even the business that she is in charge of today. And he was full of life, energy, zest, name it, impacting young people with inspiration and motivation. And not, of course, to leave out the part where he impacted his family as well, both at home and at large. And eventually passed on December 26, 2020. December, Christmas time. What was it like for Unyime King? We're here with you today. Well, obviously, I like the fact that you're really looking lovely, good,
Thank you.
strong.
Thank you.
5 years down the line, how has it been? First of all, what was it like when it happened?
Okay, thank you very much. And there's nothing I do or say without mentioning God, because honestly, my faith has anchored me. If I didn't have a personal walk with God, I think I would have crumbled to the point where I'm sure by now people will be hearing that there's a business that used to be called Protection Plus that existed. When Ubong King passed, my first instinct, was denial. I had to go into denial mode so that I do not focus on what had just befallen me, to be able to put things together. I remember then that day he was in hospital, I was speaking with my pastor off and on. He was calling me, he was calling people to pray and all of that. And there's something that he said to me after the news broke. He said that God will help you to have clarity of mind because there are so many decisions to take. One of the things that made it easy, I would say, for me, even though Ubong was a security professional, I'm not a security professional, but I had to step in to lead a business that was mainly security, even though we have our other subsidiaries. It helped because when Ubong was here, he involved me. Yes, I wasn't a security person, but he involved me and ensured that I knew what was going on. I had my things that I was focused on. I wasn't focused on the security aspect of the business, but because of how he had involved me, I was able to take things to the next level. It wasn't easy. I had to lean into counsel from people who knew better. I had to reach out to people. I sat with certain names and I told them this is what is going on. How do I do this? How do I do that? And then I also brought in consultants. The easier thing for me to, and people advised me, they said, don't bother your head, sell off all the assets, take your children, relocate abroad. And I said, really? How do I turn my back on a business that we built from the scratch, from the floor? The business that started in our bedroom. And initially that business started like where 2 or 3 are gathered. But then it became a growing concern with so many families, hundreds of families, attached to the business. So I looked at it and I said, if I turn my back now, I'm going to be letting down God. I'm going to be letting down the memory of my husband. I'm going to be letting down my children and myself. And I'm going to be letting down the families that are connected to the business. So even in an impossible, because a lot of things came out, we did a forensic audit, and a lot of things came out in that audit. I discovered that even while my husband was still, his body was still in the morgue, some people had gone to take a facility from the bank, which was totally unnecessary in the light of the things that kept unfolding. So I had that to deal with. So it would have been easy to pack up and leave, but I said no, I wasn't going to do that, that I will stand and I will deal, which was what I did. And it was in the course of that I discovered that resilience is not strength. Resilience is about doing the same thing over and over again until strength becomes your normal. Okay. So that was what I did. You may not be strong. Yes, but you do it afraid. So that was what I did. I brought in people who knew better. I felt knew better, consultants to guide me on how to go about this next season of my life. A season where I was only providing support and now I had to step in to play the main role. And in doing that, there were so many things that I had to deal with. I had to deal with culture, people who felt that a woman should not be leading this, and especially because the niche that we're playing in was something that people consider largely male-dominated. So I had that to deal with. I had emotions to deal with, where people will see you as Ubong King's wife. And then now, Ubong King's wife is stepping in and has to give instructions to people who feel that, no, this thing should be the way it has always been. So I had to deal with all of that. I had to keep the why and then define the how. The values remain the same, but the administration of everything had to change. I had to think more in terms of structure. I had to think more in terms of sustainability. So we started to set up a watertight system, because God raised his memory. Ubong King is somebody that he started a business out of his passion. He wanted to help people and he wanted to make a difference in the security industry, which he did. But the business, he started it with bringing in people out of, okay, this one has a hunger. There were principles that he ran by, that he used to say that hunger is a gift of God to man, that he doesn't care about your qualifications. Once you show hunger, he will employ you. And you know how human beings take advantage of things like that. Yeah. So I knew that in this season, I couldn't afford to do it the way he had done it. The values remained the same. The why remained the same, but I had to change the how. I said in this season, we are going to have more structure in place so that people do not take advantage, of those loopholes to run their own systems. So we had to make sure that we had a watertight system. And by the grace of God, this November, 5 years later, we just got our ISO certification. And for me and the rest of the staff, it was a big deal to have that ISO certification, because we worked for it, So that's what it has been. So we've grown from one level to the other. I would say that we are not where we were when Ubong King passed. That time there was a lot of fear. We're not even sure if the business was going to survive the next day and things like that. But now we've moved from there. We are not yet where I want us to be, but we have moved from where we were, and we are still marching on, still, evolving day after day, evolving from one level to the other. So today is far more better.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've done amazingly well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stepping through an area that is not like your core, and took on the mantle, and you've kept it running for 5 years.
Yeah. Death didn't even allow me the luxury of saying, okay, let me go and do a security course. No. When your husband dies and you find yourself plunge into leadership. I didn't want pain to define my leadership. I didn't want pain to define that. I saw that the legacy was staring me in the face, and legacy is not emotional. Legacy is not sentimental. So I had to step in. And I remember one of my consultants, he clocked 80 this year, very solid person, very, very solid old man. He came in threefold. He came in as a consultant. He came in as a father. He came in as a professional in my life. He was auditing accounts and also praying for the family and I. You know, he had a lot of other young auditors, of course, working with him, that he was guiding them on what to do. And he said, Mrs. King, you don't even have the luxury of going to any to go and do security courses right now. You have to learn on the job. And I had to learn on the job.
So what would be your advice to young widows, you know, with moving on in life? Okay, yeah, widows, widowers, you know, but I think the situation around widows are very, very, you know, peculiar somehow, you know, but no problem. Widows, those who've lost people, what would you say to them?
I would tell them, do not allow the pain to define you. Your husband may have gone. And of course, I'll also speak to the men. Maybe your wife may have gone, because it's not only the women that lose. True. Yeah, the men also lose their spouse.
I think the circumstances, the issues around
the women,
and I think they're different to some extent, but it's still pain, you know. But just like you said, I mean, the issues are slightly different, but it's okay, it's so speakable. So.
Okay, so I would say, do not allow the pain to define you. Your spouse may have been gone, but it doesn't mean your purpose is gone. You know, I said something to my children initially when their father died. I said, initially it was all about you. I had to push my pain to the background to ensure that you people are okay, even though I discovered that at some point the children were even stronger than me. I had to tell them that the way they were all over me, ensuring that I'm okay, trying to treat me like a baby, I had to tell them, no, I'm your mother, I'm not your child, you know. So I told them it was all about you initially, but now it's also about me. Ubong King may not be here, but I am here and I still have purpose. When we were born into this world, God sent us to the earth with purpose in mind. So at the end of the day, when you stand before the judgment throne, you're not going to say, oh, because my spouse died, that's why I did not fulfill what God called me to do. So that's what I'm saying to everybody out there. Your spouse may no longer be here on this side of the earth. It doesn't mean that you should die with them. And I'm not saying that to be insensitive. Of course, I can't be, because of what also happened to me. But I'm saying this, that you have to understand that there's still purpose in you that you need to bring out. The world, you still have a lot to offer the world. You shouldn't shut down because your spouse passed. Yes, if the grief becomes complex, go for professional counseling. There's nothing wrong with that. At some point, my children and I had professional counseling. And it's okay to have that. But just know that your life doesn't come to an end just because your spouse exited this world. I realized that Ubong King may have gone, and it's been a very painful thing to deal with, but there's still purpose. There are still things that God deposited in me that He wants me to achieve. So that's my advice to anybody that has been bereaved of their spouse out there.
Wow, wonderful one. What would be your advice to women in business?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, at some point, that I didn't have the luxury of going to go and do some certain courses. You know, I had to learn on the job. Don't be scared of leaning into help from advisors who know better, help from people who have been there, done that. Women in business, you need mentors, you need coaches that you can talk to, because no matter how good you think you are, there will be certain crossroads that you do not really know how to navigate. I had this particular friend, she's still my friend, who I reached out to at some point, and I said, I need help. SOS, come to Macedonia and help us. This is what I'm experiencing in this certain aspect. How do I deal with this? By the time I told her this, so even though we cried, she said she cried and cried, but she's somebody who is a mentor, she's older, she's more accomplished than myself. And after crying with me and everything, she said, okay, do you want me to send in X, and X to come and help you look at this thing? And I said, please, by all means. So those were the kind of support systems that I had. So do not be scared for any woman that is in business to reach out for that support. You know, sometimes for women, the fear always is that, okay, maybe somebody will come and start toasting me, wanting to take advantage and all of that. I think sometimes how you conduct yourself too matters. Will also determine all that. Okay. Yeah. Because I've not really had that. I've not really had that. Okay. And I'm very intentional in who I reach out to for help. Okay. Yes.
Break the Rules was the last thinkation before Ubong came past them. And that was in 2020. And I was there. It was amazing. And that's where you saw him bring Alan Onyema. Alan told his story, you know, on stage, and thanked your husband well for giving him the opportunity to share his story from that perspective. And then talk about Jimmy Odukoya. He was there on that stage. Most people didn't even know him then before he acted Woman King, and today he's popular. He's a pastor now, doing great things. But personally, I remembered when he spoke and connected it with his mother, and I was amazed that, you know, the child was still doing something amazing. And that's the quality of what you will see happen in Thinkation. People go all out to get amazing speakers, tell their stories, show their journeys, and inspire and impact people. It's amazing. Give us a bit about the impact of Thinkation, you know, for all of these people, young people, adults, men, women. Just tell us about the impact of Thinkation.
Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting one.
5 years without him.
Yeah. Okay. Ubong King, before he passed, did 3 editions of Thinkation, because Thinkation started 2018. Yeah, 2018, and he did 3 editions. And I will not call it his legacy. It's our legacy. Okay. I said that because I've been involved with it from the start. You know, there are people that are like in the background pushing things. There are people that are in the front pushing. And my husband and I were a team in every sense of the word. So I didn't see the need to try and do things to outshine him or he outshine me. We're just functioning in our, yes, we're functioning. You know, when you go to a battlefield, everybody doesn't go to the battlefront. There are some people that are strategically positioned at the front, some people by the sides, and even in a football game, you have people positioned in different places, and their roles matter. Everything they do contributes to the larger thing. So Ubong King, yes, he had shared that vision of Thinkation, but I bought it. And I've been a part of it from day one. So when he passed, I remember the hardest Thinkation we've ever had to do was the 2021 edition. That one, we had to go virtual. We reached out to a lot of friends. And I remember we're sitting down in this parlor with my family. And the moment they started playing, running the videos, everybody was crying. The children couldn't even watch. They ran upstairs. It was the most emotional Thinkation of all. But it was powerful. And I thank God that we didn't rest it and say, okay, let's just, because it passed December, let's not do this in January. We did it with broken hearts, but we did it. And after that one, we've done 4 editions, 4 powerful editions that have been going on well. We've leveraged on relationships to bring people in to speak, because it's a platform that we are very intentional. We don't just bring in storytellers. We bring in people that have experienced life, that have experienced, built their businesses brick by brick. And they come, they don't just tell you stories, they tell you step by step how they're able to move from point A to point Z in building their business, just to encourage young people that there's something inside of you that you can bring out if you think enough, because Thinkation is about the mind, is about, you know, harnessing the power of the mind to produce. So we've had those editions successfully this year. We had in Abeokuta, because Ubong's dream was to move Thinkation around different states, eventually outside the country. So this, the one for January 2026, I just told the team that I think it's time. Ubong King had wanted to go to Akwa Ibom. It was one of the things he was already planning, that he would go to Akwa Ibom for the next edition. Unfortunately, he didn't pass. He passed before that could happen. And we couldn't do it immediately because we had to deal with all the challenges that came with his death and all, you know. So I just told the team that I now have a release. I feel that it is time for us to go to Akwa Ibom for this next edition. So come January 31st, we are going to be in Akwa Ibom for this edition, which is tagged Reinvent the Future. So it's happening in the city of Uyo live on the 31st of January. And honestly, the excitement that has been going on, we've done a lot of media awareness in Akwa Ibom for this event. And I believe that it's going to be even bigger and better because each edition is better than the next. So we are looking forward to a really formidable event. The impact has been tremendous. Even if it's only just resurrecting hope in somebody who has felt as if life was over for them, I think that is powerful. So we have pockets of people all over the place outside, because when Ubong passed, I received a lot of messages in my DM from total strangers, people that I didn't even think would know him, people that had not even met him. It's not as if they met him. But because they had listened to his videos, they had been impacted by them, they reached out to me and said, oh, this message did this for me, this message did that for me. I'm not even talking of the ones that would come and say, he gave me this, he gave me that. You know, at some point I was wondering with my family, wait, how, when did he do all of this? Yes, I know he was reaching out to people, but the volume was something that I didn't even imagine it would be because of the feedback. The grief counseling that I mentioned, a lady in the UK, a lady evangelist, reached out to me. She said, oh, I've never met your husband. I just listened to his videos on Pastor Jimmy Odukoya's speech, and it really blessed me. And the outcome of that conversation is that she got the children and I to have grief counseling with some grief counselors in London, which we didn't pay a dime for, you know. So they've been people that encountered the platform that have built their businesses. Some of them, we have asked them, okay, help us do videos, video testimonials and all. The impact has been tremendous. I'm not even talking of the student community. There are so many students now who have come into their own. Some of them, for instance, in my state, some of them are now special advisors to the governor and things like that. There are people that were under his tutelage and mentorship. So the impact has been tremendous. And you know, when you impact one person who impacts another person and all of that, the impact multiplies. So I would say that the impact of the Thinkation platform continues to multiply.
All right, before I just let you go, what is your word? Word of advice, motivation, inspiration, encouragement to a young person out there, you know, who needs a new zest on life? Okay,
what I would say to any young person out there is that there's much more to you than you can ever imagine. You know, sometimes we tend to self-sabotage. We talk down ourselves. We feel that there's nothing much to offer. We compare ourselves with the other person and we look at what we've been able to do, and maybe we're on track, and then we see what the other person is doing and we begin to talk down on ourselves. I would encourage any young person, you need to be confident in your abilities, confident in your capabilities, confident that there's a rich deposit of talents and gifts inside of you that the world needs to hear, needs you to express for them to be blessed by it. Like I was speaking with my daughter, because I'm also a mother mentor. I'm not just a mother, I mentor my children. And I said to my daughter, who was expressing some doubts about herself to me, and I was talking to her about self-sabotage, and I said to her that there's much more inside of you that needs to come out. There are people that are connected to that thing that God has planted in you. If you do not let it out, those people will not be able to express. So know that you walk about with a weight of responsibility. You didn't want it, but that is how it is. So that's what I would say to any young person. There's a whole lot of people that are attached, connected to you by vision, connected to you by the things that God has deposited inside of you. So let it out, because in letting it out, you bless your world.
Wow. It's been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for all that you've shared with us on The Scoop today. And if you leave me, I do not want to go, but we would have to wrap up this edition. Thank you so much, Ambassador Unyime, for all the time and allowing us enjoy this time and presence with you. Thank you so much. And with this, I would say thank you for watching The Scoop on Konga TV. And of course, you do know we've got the radio version going on Konga 103.7 FM. I am a former Unyime-Ivy Melody, your sparkling woman on air, and I've had an amazing time. Hope you did too with me, with Ambassador Unyime-Ivy King, CEO of Protection Plus Services Limited. Of course, the wife of the late Ubong King, doing amazing stuff all over. She gave us time and we had an amazing time. Thank you. Join us, catch us on another fantastic episode of The Scoop. Have a wonderful time.
And if you want to travel, hey, no sweat. We'll fly up to Paris.
When I took over The Guardian, I think they had close to 1,000 staff.
First time I was an MC, I was 10 years old. It was the First Lady's Children's Concert by Mariam Babangida, 1992.
I was wondering, how do I survive? Kelechi, you are a lawyer. You've been called to bar. You cannot be a mediocre artist. You have to be the artist.
I would encourage any young person, you need to be confident in your abilities, confident in your capabilities, confident that there's a rich deposit of talent and gifts inside of you that the world needs to hear.